Sorry? I think they also run here on the thing is better enough. Okay.
Joo, laittakaa se, kun tuosta äänestä vähän vinkkiä, että niin kuuluuko tämä kuinka.
Oikein hyvää iltaa kaikille. Kello löi 18 ja tervetuloa Ilmailumuseoyhdistyksen ja Tampereen Ilmasillan yhdessä järjestämään iltaan. Ja jatketaan näitä HX-hankkeen ehdokkaita ja tänään tosissaan lauteella sitten BAE Systems ja Eurofighter-hävittäjä. Ja tämän illan ohjelmasta sen verran aloitetaan sillä, että me kaikki muistanut laittaa kännykät kiinni tai hiljaiselle, ettei tule soraääniä välissä. Ja jos on tärkeitä puheluita, niin sitten mennään hoitaan tuonne ulkopuolelle. Noin kello 19 pidetään pieni hetki kahvitaukoa. Siinäkin ajassa voi sitten vielä vähän jutustella ja tehdä ostoksia ja niin edelleen. Samoin illan jälkeen tavoite on päättää tuossa vähän 8 jälkeen, eli 8:30 maissa meidän esiintyjien sitten pitää päästä etapille eteenpäin. Mutta suunnilleen siihen 8:30 asti tätä iltaa on aikaa. Metso pyysi ilmoittamaan, että siinä vaiheessa kun 19 jälkeen poistutaan tai talo rupeaa menee kiinni, niin ainoastaan tuolta nurkasta niin sanotusta alaovesta pihalle, eli ei lähdetä seikkailemaan tuonne ylempiin kerroksiin, vaan siitä ala-uloskäynnistä sitten pihalle. Welcome very much our friends from BAE Systems. It's been a pleasure to have you here tonight. And over here we have tonight Paul Smith. He has a 23 years career as a pilot in RAF, and you can tell us about all the necessary things about the Eurofighter or something like that, even closer. But then we have also here Paul Hitchcock. He's a managing director for the BAE Systems Finlandin. So if there is some kind of more questions that maybe Paul can answer, second Paul maybe can give us a little bit background. And this presentation is translated partly on Finnish, and we have here Ville Lehtoranta, which is our translator from the. You can tell yourself more about what is your background, but Paul and Ville will be the host of tonight, and about 7 p.m. we keep a little break for the coffee and then continue after the 8. So please, here you go.
Okay, thanks Janne. So I feel sorry for Janne because he had to listen to me last night in Turku say exactly the same thing. I understand.
You even 10 nights.
I understand there's some small rivalry between Turku and Tampere. So it's so pleasing to escape from Turku and be here in Tampere. Okay, so yeah, I'm here to tell you about Eurofighter, the weapon system particularly, but also why as a warfighter, as a fighter pilot, I think it's a great capability in the Finnish context and would do a great job for Finnish defence. Please ask me any questions, as if you don't understand something that I said, or you want me to explain something, happy to answer as we go, but we'll have a lot of time for questions at the end, and I hope you have some really strong, difficult questions for me about Eurofighter.
Eli Paul Smith on täällä kertomassa tosiaan Eurofighterista ja minkä takia Eurofighter on hyvä valinta Suomelle. Ja kysykää tosiaan kysymyksiä missä vaiheessa haluatte. Lopussa on myös hyvin aikaa sitten kysymyksille. Oikeastaan tämmöinen ensimmäinen äänitesti, että kuuleeko kaikki siellä perällä kanssa vai otetaanko mikrofonit käyttöön? Ja
So, 23 years in the Royal Air Force as a fighter pilot. This is me flying through the Welsh mountains on a wet spring day, actually, and in the cockpit it was obviously nice and warm, but the reason for all this moisture is it was drizzling heavily with rain, and the poor photographer who took the photo was really having a miserable time, but the aircraft's great in every environment. I had 23 years, more than 3,000 hours fast jet, more than 600 hours on Eurofighter. I was on the first front line. I was the deputy squadron commander for the first front line Eurofighter squadron in the Royal Air Force, and then I did operational test and evaluation for 4 years after that as well. I'm a fighter weapons school QI in how we say in the UK, and I was an instructor on the fighter weapons school in the UK as well. And last 5 years I've been working for industry, and although it's a pleasure to speak to you today, that's not normally my job. My job normally is to work with the other fighter pilots from the other partner nations and help develop new capabilities, particularly cockpit design and that sort of work. So, but a pleasure to be here.
Hyvä. Paul tosiaan kertoo taustastaan noin 23 vuotta ollut kuninkaallisten ilmavoimien lentäjänä, yli 3000 tuntia suihkuheitteessä, 600 tuntia Eurofighterilla. Ja tänä päivänä Paul työskentelee eri maiden ilmavoimien kanssa ja sovittaa uusia ominaisuuksia etenkin ohjaamossa.
What am I going to tell you tonight? So a little bit of an introduction about the aircraft. I'm going to talk about what Eurofighter's been doing on operational missions recently. A little bit about the capability delivery for the HX program specifically for Finland and why Eurofighter is a good fit for the Finnish environment. Obviously it's a very challenging environment here. The Finnish Air Force operates its aircraft in extreme environment. And why in the operational context, the threats that are out there, why we think Eurofighter is a great fit for that. I'm going to touch on future growth of the platform, so why it would carry on developing and the future capabilities that we would deliver. And also the UK Future Combat Air Strategy and how Eurofighter is a key part of that and the other elements. As I said, please ask me questions as we go, if it's understanding, or some tricky questions at the end.
Joo, tässä oikeastaan kolme keskeistä asiaa tässä esityksessä on, siis puhutaan operaatioista, käytännön operaatioista, missä Eurofighteria on käytetty, sitten siitä, että mitä Eurofighter tarkoittaa Suomelle, toisaalta niin kuin tekniikkaa, toisaalta operaatioiden kannalta, ja kolmantena sitten tulevaisuudesta ja sitten Englannin tämmöistä FCAS tulevaisuuden hankkeesta. Ja kysykää kysymyksiä tosiaan missä vaiheessa vaan.
So currently 9 nations are operating Eurofighter. More than 20 flying units, and actually the Royal Air Force is standing up 2 more Eurofighter squadrons over the next 3 years, so an indication of the confidence that we have in the aircraft and how it's a core part of our combat air capability.
Joo, Eurofighter on tosiaan 9 maata sen on tilannut, yli 20 lentävää yksikköä, ja kuninkaalliset ilmavoimat juuri perustavat 2 uutta lisää Typhoon laivuetta.
The aircraft itself, well, we've got the model here, and it's pretty heavily laden with weapons. But one of the core things about Eurofighter is just the performance. That's not everything about an aircraft, but if you have a great aerodynamic aircraft and engine combination, then you can keep changing the weapons. You can update the sensors. You're able to fight at long range, high and fast. You're able to dogfight close in, and I've done all of those things with Eurofighter. As well as I'll explain shortly, done air combat against Su-30 MKI, Indian Air Force for training. So really a great platform. The engines are particularly impressive, huge amount of thrust, primarily made by Rolls-Royce. I know you have Rolls-Royce here in Finland, and just deliver a lot of thrust. Very reliable engines. The only aircraft that's got anything like the performance of a Typhoon is the Raptor F-22, and that's not in the competition. But I've had colleagues from around the European Air Forces say, it's great to fly alongside a Eurofighter, except that we're not flying alongside you, we're 10,000 feet below you. And that, whether that's a Hornet, F-16, any of those aircraft really. So really a great capability, but you really notice the difference at high level.
Joo, Eurofighterilla se isoin määrittävä tekijä on tuon koneen ja sitten moottoreiden liitto. Eurofighter on selkeästi tehokkaampi ja lentää korkeammalla kuin muut koneet, paitsi F-22A Amerikoista.
And yeah, a couple of figures here that just show you that. So for brakes to take off, less than 8 seconds. Well, typically actually about 6 seconds from releasing the brakes to, if you're in an air-to-air fit, releasing the brakes to airborne. Sorry?
It's very, very short.
It's very fast acceleration. You know, literally, it's a real kick in the seat of the pants. About 300 meters in terms of runway length that's using if you're using afterburner. Typically, we don't use the afterburner for takeoff in the UK. It's just not necessary. But it's an option you have. And if you want to do a rapid climb to height, so quick reaction alert, you have an unexpected threat, you can go from brakes off, so 0 knots, to Mach 1.6 at 11k in 2.5 minutes. So very, very excellent in terms of air dominance or preserving or being a deterrent and being able to meet and beat any threat out there. That's kind of important as well, not so much just getting up there the first time. Any air combat obviously often has 2 or 3 phases, and older fighters or other Western fighters generally in the second or third phase they're losing height, and that's kind of important. In Typhoon, I'm typically either maintaining or gaining height and speed all of the time. So that really gives me a huge advantage in long-range combat and gives me what we call exclusive vertical fighting room in short-range combat. And I'll talk about how that's useful later.
Ja tässä on tosiaan esillä Eurofighterin suoritusarvoja ja esimerkkinä vain tuosta nousukiidosta, niin Eurofighter nousee taivaalle alle 300 metrin kiitoradalla ja siitä kun jarrut päästään, siinä kestää noin alle 8 sekuntia, mutta noin 6 sekuntia kone on ilmassa. Tuossa näkyy toinen siitä kun jarrut päästään irti ja kun kone on 11 kilometrin korkeudessa Mach 1.6, siihen menee noin 2,5 minuuttia. Nämä suoritusarvot on äärimmäisen tärkeitä sekä pitkän matkan että lähi-ilmataistelussa, koska Eurofighter pystyy aina olemaan korkeammalla kuin vastustajakone.
And I guess one final point that's worth making: the aircrafts manufacture 70% carbon fiber composites. We're not a stealthy aircraft, I wouldn't say that, but we have what we call a managed radar cross section. So if you compare, you're not either invisible or completely visible. If a comparison that I often give is if you think of as an F-22 as a marble in terms of its radar cross section, F-35 might be a golf ball, a Typhoon's probably an apple, and then something like an F-18 or other metal constructed aircraft like Su-27, then that's more like a football or beach ball.
Ja yksi keskeinen asia Eurofighterissa on se, että se on pääasian komposiittimateriaalista rakennettu. 80% pinta-alasta on komposiitteja, lasikuitua tai hiilikuitua tai muita komposiitteja. Tämä vaikuttaa selkeästi se havaittavuuteen tutkassa, että jos nämä niin sanotut häivehävittäjät ovat pienen marmorikuulan tai golfpallon kokoisia, Eurofighter on omenan kokoinen, kun tavalliset hävittäjät taas puhutaan enemmän, ne on jalkapallo tai rantapallo kooltaan.
Difficult to recycle.
Kyllä.
Clearly that's a very simple analogy of what's a very complex situation, and obviously electronic attack, electronic warfare plays a large part in that as well.
Joo, kyllä, että yleensäkin nämä häiveasiat on hyvin hankalia, koska elektroninen sodankäynti vaikuttaa merkittävästi häiveeseen.
Okay, so what's Eurofighter doing right now, and what we expect it to be doing beyond 2060? As I said, 7 nations operating right now. Kuwait and Qatar are on order to receive their aircraft shortly as well. We're still building and delivering aircraft to all of the 4 European nations, and obviously Germany's looking at buying some more, as are Spain and maybe even the UK with the current changing context. But we work a lot together. This is the European Air Group is actually headquartered in the UK, and we work very closely. There's a Eurofighter Typhoon interoperability program that all of the nations work together, and so we do a lot of flying together. This is a British colleague flying with a Spanish colleague down in Moron. I took my aircraft down to Moron a couple of times. I went out to Lager, which as well as being a funny name for an airbase in the UK, Lager being beer. is where they operate the Eurofighter. So we work a lot together, we train a lot together, we share information, and we share training and lessons from engineering and all maintenance procedures.
Nämä Eurofighter-käyttäjämaat muodostavat tämmöisen yhteisen perheen. Tällä hetkellä se on käytössä 7 maassa ja 9 maata sen on tilannut 2 maahan, eli Kuwait ja Qatarin ollaan toimittamasta parhaillaan. Ja se on jatkuvaa tämä yhteistyö siis niin kuin kehittämisen, kouluttamisen ja harjoittelun saralla.
And yeah, primarily it's a European program, but we've taken the aircraft all over the world. So when I was in the operational test arena, I would spend about 6 months of the year out in Nellis Air Force Base, where the Finnish Air Force is right now on red flag. And not only do we do red flag, obviously, but we would do a lot of operational tests with purely US assets to make sure the aircraft's very interoperable. We've taken it out to the Far East, out to India, to the Middle East. Obviously, we spend a lot of time there. And clearly, importantly, we've been up to Arctic Challenge, and we've worked a lot in the Nordic region. And we've been to Iceland. So the aircraft has been to pretty much every part of the globe.
Tässä on tosiaan kuvassa erilaisia operaatioita ja harjoituksia, mihin tuo Eurofighter on osallistunut. Paljon arktisia harjoituksia ja sitten myös paljon harjoituksia Yhdysvalloissa, missä on testattu pitkäaikaisesti sitten toisaalta koneen toimintaa ja sitten kehitetty myös yhteiskykyä Yhdysvaltojen kanssa.
Jan has heard this joke about 5 times, so I'm going to check his perhaps. But I've spent cumulatively about 2.5 years of my life down in the Falkland Islands. It's not the end of the world, but you can see the end of the world, it's just there. It feels like the end of the world when you're down there, I tell you. And it's so bleak, no trees grow there at all. No trees of any sort down there. But we've had 4 Eurofighters down there for 5 years and then changed them out. But during those 5 years, those 4 aircraft are on Cure 24/7, 365 days a year. We do routine training flying. We've done the depth maintenance that you need to do on the aircraft with about 25 to 30 maintenance guys. So that shows you, although it's not dispersed operations, this aircraft, you can take it places and it just flies and flies and flies. And in a airworthy manner, a combat capable manner. So very sustainable aircraft, very reliable aircraft, built and designed to be so.
Eurofighter on erittäin luotettava kone, josta on yksi todiste muun muassa siis Falklandin tehtävä, missä on 4 Eurofighteria jatkuvassa hälytysvalmiudessa. Se vaatii noin 25-30 huoltohenkilökuntaa siellä mukaan, ja Paul on itse tosiaan on 2,5 vuotta elämästä Falklandilla päivystyksessä.
But I think critical for this part of the world, Baltic air policing is of particular interest. So all 4 nations have been a core part of the Baltic air policing mission. In fact, Eurofighters have done, for most of the past 2 to 3 years, have been about half of all of the fighters across Western Europe and NATO that have done the Baltic air policing mission. And so, we're experienced in this part of the world, and we're experienced working alongside the Finnish Air Force, as well as doing deployed carrier in the Middle East and down in the Falklands. It's not quite Finland. Clearly, it doesn't get as cold in the Baltic as it does up in Lapland. But it's a pretty adverse environment, and I think it gives you reasonable confidence that Eurofighter operates and flies in those sort of conditions. Interestingly, this is the US. This was Western Zephyr, and they had a storm come through, and it dropped down to about -15 degrees. See the aircraft roll outside. The next day, it was up at sort of +10, +15. So a really extreme temperature change. And the engineers amongst you will know that actually temperature changes are almost more of a problem for avionics and systems than actually very low or very high temperatures. And the next day, all of those aircraft went flying and were doing air combat against Raptors. So very reliable aircraft and suited to this sort of environment.
Ja Eurofighter on tosiaan hyvin usein, eli melkein jatkuvasti tekemässä Baltic Air Policingia Virossa ja Liettuassa. Noin puolet niistä koneista, mitkä on siihen tehtävään osallistumaan Eurofightereita. Ja jatkuvasti oikeastaan lentää tuossa Itämeren yläpuolella erilaisissa tunnistustehtävissä. Tuossa vaan kuvana siitä, miten Eurofighter soveltuu tuollaisiin talviolosuhteisiin, myös on harjoitus Yhdysvalloissa, jossa lämpötila muuttui radikaalisti, eli yhdessä päivässä putosi -15 ja nousi sieltä 10 asteeseen. Ja niin kuin insinöörit täällä mukana tietää, että se lämpötilan muutokset on niitä ehkä hankalimpia asioita. Ja tuossa kaikki koneet selvisivät siitä mahtavasti ja seuraavana päivänä saivat kunnian taistella sitten Raptoreita vastaan taivaalla.
And on the Baltic air policing, a range of aircraft have been intercepted from old Cold War interceptors such as MiG-31 through to the Bear, Midas, more interestingly perhaps Su-34 Fullback as well as the Fulcrum, right down to helicopters, very slow-moving aircraft, general aviation, and clearly, in the Baltic, as you have here, a lot of those aircraft they're not on flight plans, they're not squawking, they're not transponder. You just have to react to what you see.
These are most Russian
In the Baltic, those are most of the people who aren't on a flight plan who aren't, because I haven't counted the people who are flight planned. If we're expecting them, if they tell us they're coming, then you don't have to intercept them and find out who they are. But yeah, those in the Baltic we've shadowed and found all of those aircraft, and I think as a fighter pilot, from 5 feet up to 55,000 feet, from 100 knots up to 1,100 knots. The aircraft is very comfortable, very easy to fly, has got great power, and you can sit alongside, shadow, find, intercept, track, and report comfortably any of those threats that are out there, and do that with an appropriate warload if necessary. This is Royal Air Force Eurofighter flying alongside 2 Finnish Hornets. We already have excellent interoperability with the Finnish Air Force, so what we see on our data links, we can share that information with the Finnish Air Force now, and clearly that's the same for any US-built platform, or to a large extent any of the European platforms, and I'll talk about that specifically more in the future. But we have the same, very similar operational doctrine, so it's very easy for us to work alongside the Finnish Air Force, and we'd like to take that forwards.
Tosiaan kuninkaallisen ilmavoimalla on hyvin samanlainen doktriini tai toimintadoktriini kuin Suomen ilmavoimilla. Tässä näkyy kuvassa siitä, kun on Suomen Hornetit ja sitten Eurofighter lentämässä yhdessä.
And that's the same, I mentioned the Royal Air Force, but obviously the same for Luftwaffe, also very close to here, Italian Air Force and Spanish Air Force.
Tämä sama koskee myös Luftwaffea ja Espanjan ja Italian ilmavoimia.
And just as an example, in 2015, one of the times the Italian Air Force was there, NATO did an unplanned assessment of the tactical capability of the Italian Air Force Baltic Air Policing mission in the air policing role. And they got an assessment of excellent, 99.4% of mission accomplishment. There were 40 alpha, or actual real scrambles, so 40 times in a 3-month period when the aircraft came unannounced, not squawking, not on flight plan. And in the same period they did another 116 tango or training scrambles. So the aircraft is great in the air dominance role. You get a look at the weapons load there. Here this is a Royal Air Force aircraft with 4 ASRAM and 4 AMRAM. But right now the Royal Air Force is now flying with 4 Meteors here. You can fix that up to 6 Meteors, or you can mix up 2 or 4 extra ASRAMs. So a good weapons load and a good air policing or aircraft to ensure your sovereign airspace.
Tässä on tuloksia. NATO teki tämmöisen pistokokeen Italian ilmavoimien toimintoihin Baltic Air Policingissa. Siellä osoittautui, että Eurofighter oli selvinnyt verrattain hyvin tästä tehtävästä, eli yleisarvio oli erinomainen, koneiden käytettävyys oli 99,4%. Ja sitten näiden 3 kuukauden aikana he olivat tehneet 40 tämmöistä A-tunnistustehtävää, eli oikeisiin koneisiin, ja 116 harjoitustehtävää. Tässä koneessa näkyy tuommoinen Eurofighterin tyypillinen ilmataisteluvarustus, eli siellä on 4 AMRAAM-ohjusta ja 4 ASRAAM-ohjusta. Tällä hetkellä tämä tulevaisuudessa todennäköisesti tulee olemaan 4 Meteor tai 4 tai 6 Meteor-ohjusta ja 2 lyhyen kanto-ohjusta, mukaan lukien sitten nuo lisätankit.
And on to multi-role operations or strike operations we're currently doing in Iraq and Syria against ISIS or Daesh. The mission route there, we're flying out of Cyprus, the Royal Air Force aircraft are. So generally we'll fly from Cyprus, do about 3 hours over a very large and wide-ranging operating area. Not so much now because it's kind of quieting down in Iraq. Obviously back in 2015 and 16 it was quite a different situation. But we had a very large area to cover. I guess, what's the point of that is, one of the things that Typhoon was really popular, particularly with the Iraqi forces, was that you could get from the north down to the south very quickly and offers a very flexible weapons package. I guess that's kind of, for me, applicable to Finland because you also have a huge border to police. So the ability to loiter for a long time, to have a lot of weapons mass on a certain number of platforms means maybe you don't need quite so many fighters if you have a fighter that can carry the sort of weapons load and has the range and persistence that Eurofighter has.
Ja tässä on kuvattu siis tuolla Syyriassa ja Irakissa tapahtuvaa toimintaa, eli kuningalliset ilmavoimat toimii Kyprokselta ja tekee tehtäviä sinne. Tuossa on tyypillinen tehtävä on se, että niin kone nousee ilmaan, se tankataan ja sen jälkeen tulee 3 tunnin tehtävä suoraan niin kuin, Irakin päällä. Ja sitten tämä, mikä Eurofighterista tekee erittäin hyvän niin kuin kestävyyden tai se pystyy toimimaan pitkään, on se, että se pystyy kantamaan isoa asekuormaa tehonsa takia ilman, että suorituskyky kovasti kärsii.
And in terms of the sort of roles we're doing, then 3 different kinds of strike roles. So deliberate is where you know the target before you get airborne. So you've planned and you know precisely what you're going to hit, and you can plan the weapons load. Dynamic targeting or XINT or SCAR is where you don't know what target, so you just have a range, you carry weapons in case, you're in the area, and you are then subsequently told to find, fix, generate weapons coordinates and put weapons down against targets that you have found yourself. And then close air support, perhaps the trickiest mission, where you're working with friendly forces in very close contact to hostile forces. You have to be very precise, you have to be very clear in locating the friendlies, as well as the hostiles, and then using weapons so that you only have the appropriate effects.
Eurofighter tosiaan suorittaa päänsä 3 tyyppisiä tehtäviä. Tämmöistä ennalta suunniteltuja iskuja kohteisiin. Sitten tämmöisiä tehtäviä, missä kohteet tunnistetaan tehtävän keskellä ja valitaan sitten. Ja 3. omien joukkojen taistelun tukemista, missä pitää olla erittäin tarkkana siinä, että tunnistaa ketkä on omia ja ketkä sitten vihollisia.
And then, yes, day and night, strategic deconfliction, the point I'm trying to make there is that obviously there are a lot of coalition aircraft and generally the NATO aircraft are on data links, so we know where everyone is. But a lot of, particularly in Syria, a lot of Russian and Syrian aircraft floating around that are not on our data links, so it's kind of more difficult to deconflict from them. One of the advantages of Eurofighter is that I'm capping 10 or 15,000 feet above those aircraft because of the excess power that I have. So as well as putting me above some of the older surface-to-air missile systems, it just keeps me out of the way, makes my life easier. And oftentimes, or pretty much routinely, we'd come back from Iraq at 50,000 feet, purely because A, it's fuel efficient, and B, there's nobody else there.
Ja toi Eurofighter tosiaan yksi tehtävistä on tämmöinen strateginen dekonfliktointi, eli konfliktin estäminen. Ja Eurofighter toimii siellä usein eri korkeudella kuin muut hävittäjät, eli 3-5 kilometriä muiden hävittäjien yläpuolella tavallaan omassa sfäärissään. Se taas auttaa pitkälti siihen, että pysyy sitten ilmatorjuntaohjusten ja muiden hävittäjien ulottumattomissa.
There's an example. This is a friend of mine completed this sortie. It was one of the sorties he was on in January 16. He started off up in the north, so retasked from northern Iraq up in Mosul, moved down towards Ramadi where they hit a AAA in a weapons building. Then they were tasked against a sniper position, which they successfully, a hostile sniper position, they successfully destroyed that. And there were some troops in contact, so friendly Iraqi forces attacked by ISIS. So a close air support mission in effect, and in that was pretty kinetic. So paveway forward buddy spite. So that's when one aircraft, one Typhoon, lasers the weapon for the other Eurofighter Typhoon. He then self-designated a paveway 4 into against an attack between fighting troops. There was then some troops very close, hostiles very close to friendlies. So he then used the 27mm cannon to strafe troops in a trench line. And then finally successfully spiked a laser-guided bomb against some hostile ISIS troops hiding in scrubland. So pretty kinetic, all in one mission. I guess the point there is, again, with one pair of Typhoons, you have a lot of weapons mass, as well as the ability to defend yourself. You have the fuel persistence to hang out for a long time, and you have the flexibility of the paveway 4 to hit quite a range of different targets. And then finally, obviously, the sensors to find those targets, fix them, and the HMI or PVI, pilot vehicle interface, to communicate that effectively to the pilot in a rapid way so that you can get those weapons downrange.
Ja tässä on kuvattu yksi viimeinen tehtävä Ramadista. Tässä on sinänsä mielenkiintoinen tehtävä, että tässä oli monta vaihetta. Siinä siis iskettiin tämmöisellä Payway 4 täsmäpommeilla tuommoiseen asevarastoon. Siellä tuottiin yksi tuommoinen tarkkaampuja positio ja sitten tehtiin tämmöinen omien joukkojen tukemistehtävä tuommoisella 27 millin tykillä. Tämä on siitäkin mielenkiintoinen, että tämmöinen pari taifuuneita, niin sen pystyvät tuomaan taisteluun sen verran paljon aseita ja lentämään niin pitkään, että voidaan suorittaa useita tehtäviä yhdellä lennolla. Ja tuossa se myös oli mielenkiintoista, että kumpi tahansa noista taifuuneista sitten voi osoittaa maalin toiselle taifuunille. Se voi joko itse maalata tai sitten että naapurikone maalaa.
And although that's quite a kinetic war, you might argue that it's a low intensity warfare, so we also have to practice for high intensity or high level type wars, and that's why we do exercises such as Red Flag or exercises in the Nordic region alongside our Finnish and other Nordic allies. The aircraft's very deployable, so the only way you know if you can take an aircraft away is actually to do it and practice it. Obviously there are the logistical elements that you need to refine, but we do it a lot with the RAF. We take this aircraft all over the place, and it's a hell of a lot easier to do it with the Eurofighter than it used to be in my experience with the Tornado, and we have a lot more success with Eurofighter than I often see with allies with other aircraft in terms of the small footprint you need to deploy and the reliability of the aircraft.
Joo, tosiaan tuo Rabanin tehtävä ei ole mikään korkean uhan ympäristö, mutta sitä Eurofighter harjoitellaan jatkuvasti korkean uhan ympäristöissä, muun muassa Red Flagissa. Ja se yksi mikä tuossa koneessa on tosi huomattavaa on, että se on helppo viedä erilaisiin operaatioihin tai harjoituksiin. Se porukka, mitä tarvitaan mukaan huoltamaan, on erittäin pieni verrattuna esimerkiksi Tornadoon tai moniin muuhun käytössä oleviin länsikoneisiin.
And one of the earliest red flags we were on, we were doing quite a lot of F-22 integration, and the chief of the US Air Force was there at that time, and he said Eurofighter and Raptors are an awesome combination. And I certainly didn't hear the US chief say that about any other European aircraft, so a kind of a good feedback from the chief of the US Air Force.
Joo, siis ja yhdestä harjoituksesta oli tosiaan Yhdysvaltain ilmavoimien komentajalta mielenkiintoinen palaute siitä, että F-22 Raptor ja Eurofighter on mahtava paketti yhdessä.
And one of the things we go to red flag for is not just the air threat, but also the surface-to-air missile threat. There are very good replications of threat systems, surface-to-air missile systems from other parts of the world, we mission plan for known threats, and then during the exercises, they will come up, and we have something called CCMs, coordinated countermeasures, and you'll see a little video that explains that shortly. And because of that, we have very high survivability. So certainly the last RAF exercise, there were no mission kills by SAMs against any of the RAF jets.
Is that Sukhoi 30? What's that?
I'll come to that in just a moment.
Okay.
But also critically, as you get new threats throughout the period of the exercise, then we have something called mission data, and we can adapt the mission data within a mission-to-mission cycle. So as a new threat comes up, we can change the mission data and have a counter to the new threats. And that's kind of unique to Typhoon, and it's also really important in this digital age where threats develop and can change very quickly, and the ability to counter those very quickly is really key.
Näissä harjoituksissa yksi keskeinen asia, että kokeillaan on se, miten hävittäjä selviytyy erilaisista uhista. Ja Typhoon on osoittautunut erittäin kykeneväiseksi selviytymään erilaisista uhista. Esimerkiksi viimeisimmässä Red Flag-harjoituksessa yksikään ilmatorjuntaohjus ei saanut tämmöistä mission killia tai tiputettua Typhoonia. Ja yksi sellainen, mikä on tosi mielenkiintoinen Typhoonissa oikeastaan erotuksena moneen muuhun on se, että uhkakirjastoja tai tehtävätiedostoja voidaan päivittää nopeasti. Siis siten, että jos havaitaan joku uusi uhka, se voidaan päivittää sinne seuraavana päivänä. Ja tällä hetkellä tehdään myös sitä, että testaan sitä, että voidaan päivittää näitä uhkakirjastoja suoraan lentämään koneeseen.
And the persistence part there just goes to show how fuel efficient the jet is. Often we would be part of the early sweep, so going out, one of the first jets entering into the area, clearing out the enemy aircraft threat. Then we'd hang out there, do some deliberate targeting, do some precision strike flexibly as the mission commander would require us, and often being one of the last aircraft to recover when the other aircraft had run out of fuel.
No niin, yksi Typhoonissa merkittävä on tämmöinen kyky pysyä pitkään suorittamassa tehtävää nimenomaan tuon tehon takia. Eli Typhoon pystyy kantamaan ison asekuorman suorituskykynsä takia helposti mukaan. Ja harjoituksessa usein se rooli on se, että Typhoon on ensimmäisenä puhdistamassa taistelukenttää sekä suorittamassa suunniteltuja tehtäviä ja vielä on viimeinen, joka lähtee pois kentältä.
And then as you noticed, down here it says DACT, Dissimilar Air Combat. So Su-30 MPI is the thrust vectoring Indian Air Force variant of the Su-30. We have really good relations with the Indian Air Force, obviously shared history ties, so we do a lot of exercises with the Indian Air Force. And so we've done quite a lot of dissimilar air combat against the Su-30. Long range, not really a problem, frankly, but you know the rules of engagement may draw you in close, so we do close-in dissimilar air combat as well. And Typhoon's had really excellent results against the Su-30. This is a very capable aircraft. I'm not going to tell you it's not. It's very capable. So you have to be on top of your game. But Typhoon has certain advantages, particularly an excess of thrust that allows you to implement certain game plans that give you a significant advantage against those sorts of threats.
Ja, Typhoon on tehnyt paljon ilmataisteluharjoittelua Intian Sukhoi 30 MKI:tä vastaan. Ja näissä harjoituksissa pitkältä matkalta niin kun se ei välttämättä ole niin iso uhka, mutta lähitaistelussa on erittäin kykenevä kone. On osoittautunut, että Typhoon pärjää erittäin hyvin nimenomaan tämän tehonsa takia. Eli Typhoonilla voi pitkälti valita se, että missä taistelu tapahtuu ja miten se tapahtuu.
A little bit about current capabilities or the weapons that we have currently on the aircraft. You can see them on the model here. But really, I guess some of the key points, without, and you can ask specific details later, is that there are 13 hard points on the aircraft for putting weapons. 6 of those are dedicated to air-to-air missiles. So even with all these air-to-surface weapons, you're carrying 6 air-to-air missiles. I can carry up to 8. A lot of the hard points, such as you see here, you can have multiple weapons on one hard point. So this outer wing station's got 3 brimstone precision guided missiles on. So a good loadout. And if you compare Eurofighter to some other aircraft when they're carrying, they simply can't carry that much weapons, but if they're carrying a lot of weapons, they look overloaded and crowded, and that affects their performance. They're using a lot of afterburner. Eurofighter doesn't need that, so I can cruise around in the sort of high 30s with this sort of weapon load in dry powder. And that means I can stay there a long time and deliver effective weapons.
Joo, ja tässä on Eurofighterin tämmöisiä todellisia niin kuin tehtävissä käytettäviä aseistuksia. Ja siinä on 13 tämmöistä ripustinpistettä erilaisille aseille, joista 6 on dedikoitu ilmataisteluohjuksille. Et siellä on periaatteessa aina mukana ilmataisteluohjukset kaikissa tehtävissä omasuojaa varten. Ja yksi mikä Typhoonin erottaa oikeastaan muistaa nimenomaan siis tämä teho. Eli täydellä asekuormalla, koska Typhoonissa on sen verran tehoa, se ei vaikuta suorituskykyyn juuri laisinkaan. Ja vastaavalla asekuormalla monella muulla koneella se suorituskyky on hyvin sitten erilainen.
And then finally, all of these weapons that you see here are European weapons. So, as a European nation, you're likely to have access to those without restrictions. But we also have US weapons integrated on the aircraft. So you have great flexibility in terms of where you source your weapons from and the variety of weapons that you can employ.
Ja tässä tosiaan tässä pienoismallissa ja sitten näissä kuvissa näkyvät aseet on eurooppalaisvalmisteisia, mutta sitten Typhoonissa voi, tai Eurofighter-Typhoonissa voi käyttää myös amerikkalaisia aseita hyvin pitkälti.
I've talked a little bit about the weapons there, but of course you need the right information, and this is where in the West we've often had an advantage over adversaries from other parts of the world, and that's information, cutting through the fog of war. And what on this slide or animation is just trying to show you is that actually on the Eurofighter we have a range of excellent sensors. The radar, the newly scanned radar, Pirate infrared search and track is effectively a radar that's working in the infrared spectrum, particularly effective at detecting low radar cross-section threats. Defensive aid subsystem, which is fully integrated, and I'll talk more about that later. The Striker 2 is their digital helmet-mounted display. Uniquely, it's fully digital, full colour, wide field of regard with an integrated night camera on it, and I'll talk some more about that. The data link, which is Link 16, being upgraded to mid jitters to improve the bandwidth. So interoperable with all the US and NATO platforms, but not all data links are equal. So I would say that Eurofighter is the most US interoperable platform that's not US. Obviously, identification friend or foe, so that you can work out whether there is no friendlies there. The Lightning 3 or 5 we're upgrading to, or the Sniper laser designation pods. And these are far more than just laser designation pods now. These are properly reconnaissance data gathering pods that also have an infrared tracking capability. The key point is all of that information is fused together so that you don't have to look at 7 disparate sources of information, but that's all managed and pulled together into one coherent picture for the pilot. So it really allows them to cut through the fog of war and maintain that information superiority.
Ja yksi keskeinen asia Eurofighterissa on se, että se pystyy yhdistämään tietoa tämmöisen sensorifuusiolta useista eri lähteistä. Tuossa oli esitelty muun muassa tutka, jossa on tulossa tämmöinen uusi AESA Captor E-tutka. Sitten siinä on erittäin kehittynyt tämmöinen Pirate, tämmöinen infrapuna-alueen sensori. Ja sitten erilaisten omasuoja- ja datalinkijärjestelmien avulla se pystyy rakentamaan aika kattavan kuvan siitä, mitä taistelukentällä tapahtuu.
In terms of specific weapons, then the Meteor long-range air-to-air missiles are quite exciting. You're looking at live footage taken, recorded from the firings from Eurofighter. You can also see the range of air-to-air weapons here and some other stills there from the flight test. We've done over a dozen live firings of Meteor from Eurofighter to really explore the weapon, to make sure that we understand it fully, and to test it in quite demanding environments, including jamming targets. Operational in the Royal Air Force, is being rolled out across the Royal Air Force now, and the other nations very shortly. What's the biggest difference about Meteor? Well, not just that it goes significantly further than older weapons such as AMRAAM, but actually, if a threat tries to run away and kinematically defeat my missile, which a smart adversary will, the Meteor has got a much greater no-escape range. So if that's like a current missile, such as AMRAAM's no-escape range, the Meteor is about 3 times that. Significantly, that means that a threat aircraft has to really think about before coming close to an aircraft with a Meteor, because they've got a much longer range with no-escape options for them.
Joo, ja Typhoon on juuri tulossa käyttöön siis tämmöinen Meteor-ilmataisteluohjus, mikä on pitkän kantaman ilmataisteluohjus. Ja sen isoin erottava tekijä tämmöisiin perinteisiin ohjuksiin on se, että siinä on, rakettimoottori toimii sitten koko ajan, siinä on ilmaa hengittävä moottori. Kun perinteinen ohjus se toimii sekunteja tai joitain kymmeniä sekuntia alussa ja sen jälkeen se liitää niin kuin ilman työntövoimaa, ilman halki. Meteorissa on jatkuvasti työntö päällä ja se pystyy jopa kiihdyttämään lopussa. Ja tämä johtaa siihen, että tuossa on oikeanlainen kuva siitä, kuinka iso alue on tämmöinen alue, mitä vihollinen ei pääse pois tai ei pääse karkuun ohjusta, vaikka kuinka yrittäisi liikehtiä.
And current loadout would probably include 4 Meteor, 2 AMRAAM, 2 ASRAAM, but it could be up to 6 Meteor plus 2 ASRAAM, and we're also looking at in the future upgrading that to even more air-to-air missiles.
Nykyinen tosiaan varustus on siis 4 Meteoria, 2 AMRAAMia ja 2 ASRAAMia, tai sitten 6 Meteoria ja 2 ASRAAMia, mutta tätä määrää pyritään jatkossa myös kasvattamaan.
Storm Shadow weapon you see here on the model is a long-range deep strike weapon, so several hundred kilometers. You can launch it several hundred kilometers from the launch aircraft. So really a deep, penetrating, highly accurate weapon, proven in the second Gulf War, I should say, against Saddam Hussein's bunkers, and then in Libya. Very effective, extremely accurate. So accurate that 2 weapons launched hundreds of kilometers away went down the same hole. So we actually thought we'd lost one in the post analysis. It was only subsequently we discovered that both weapons had gone down the same hole. Also, low radar cross-section weapon, so very good about hitting pre-planned, very highly defended targets. Very maneuverable, as you can see there. So the weapon itself is survivable, so it's unlikely to be detected or actually successfully engaged by defensive systems. So a very effective deterrence weapon.
Typhoonissa tämä kaukovaikuttamisen on tämmöinen Storm Shadow risteilyohjus, mikä on äärimmäisen tarkka ohjus. Puoli kertoo tarinaa tuosta Irakin sodasta, kuinka ammuttiin 2 ohjusta ja aluksi luultiin, että toinen ohjuksesta oli kadonnut, mutta lopulta huomattiin, että ne olivat menneet samasta reiästä sisään. Ja tämä on tämmöinen siis vaikeasti havaittava ja erittäin liikehtimiskykyinen risteilyohjus.
And then of the current suite of weapons we just finished integrating the last is the Brimstone. You can see it impacting a truck here, so it gives you an indication of how accurate it is. From a fast jet, moving targets can be quite tricky to engage, but with a highly accurate laser designation pod such as Lightning 5 and the Meteor, Typhoon's kind of got a unique capability. This weapon's so accurate that we even used it to target a Taliban very high-value asset who was on a motorbike doing about 70 kilometers an hour in Afghanistan. So Really unique capabilities, very small fragmentation footprint, so though it's very lethal, you can use it very close to friendly forces.
Ja yksi Typhonin tämmöistä ainutlaatuista kyvykkyyksistä on tämmöinen Brimstone-ohjus, millä pystytään vaikuttamaan siis hyvinkin pieniin liikkuviin kohteisiin. Ja se on tämmöinen ohjus, minkä taistelukärki ei ole niin iso, että se vaatisi suurta varoetäisyyttä siviileihin. Paul kertoo tämmöistä esimerkkiä, että tällä on muun muassa lentokoneesta ammuttu moottoripyörää, Talibanin moottoripyörää, mikä ajoi 70 mailia tunnissa.
And anti-FIAC says here, a fast inshore attack craft, so small, maneuverable maritime vessels are also been successfully engaged by Brimstone.
Ja mikä on Suomelle erittäin relevanttia, on myös tämmöisten pienten merialusten tuhoaminen täällä Brimstone-ohjuksella.
And in terms of new capabilities that we're integrating over the next 2 to 3 years, these are in flight test right now, so stuff that we're currently working on. You'll see here a video of a typical Brimstone attack, but things that are changing are the Captor-E. So right now flight testing at Wartenen in Manching in Germany. We're flight testing new E-scan radar that introduces a range of new capabilities. We've introduced a software change called data-driven weapons. So rather than the sort of long, expensive process of updating software in the aircraft, you just change out the data. So when you have a new update to the weapon, you just put a new data load into the aircraft. So it makes life a lot simpler. The Lightning 5 is the latest generation laser designation pod that can track multiple air as well as fixed and moving ground targets, and full color as well. So really much better capabilities than the current generation of laser designation pods, or pods that are integrated into aircraft. And the other part is finally rapid updates. So we're introducing, to counter new threats, the new mission data that I talked about in the DAS, but also capability apps. So in the same way that you have an app update to your iPhone, you'll get a capability app update for Typhoon, and that again allows us just to stay ahead of emerging threats.
Yksi keskeinen asia on tämmöinen niin kuin erilaisten konejärjestelmien ja ohjelmistojen nopea päivittäminen. Eli kun siihen lisätään uusia aseita, niitä lisätään ikään kuin tämmöisinä sovelluksina, ettei tarvitse tehdä massiivisia ohjelmistointegraatioita. Siihen tulee uusia tunnistussäiliöitä, tällä hetkellä toi Lightning 5 tunnistussäiliö, tai tunnistustiedostelusäiliö ja maalitussäiliö. Ja sitten muutenkin konejärjestelmiä voidaan päivittää erittäin helposti ohjelmistojen kautta.
And one of the key areas that's quite exciting for me and that I've been working on is the Striker 2 helmet. Currently we use the Striker helmet, which has no night camera and is a cathode ray tube monochrome. The new helmet, this visor display area is a full display, so you get a very wide field of regard image. At the top here is a little integrated digital night camera. So rather than having night vision goggles clipped to the front of your helmet, as we used to have, they're quite heavy, put a lot of strain, particularly when you're pulling a lot of G. This is fully integrated. I just put one click on my HOTAS and I get a night image in my visor, along with all of the tactical imagery, and I'll show you that shortly. Really good weight and balance on the aircraft, full colour, fully digital. So really now, rather than using NVGs, I have a full colour display on my visor, and I can even use that to generate pseudo displays, and I can drag and drop pseudo displays around dead parts of the cockpit. Those pseudo displays or augmented reality displays, they're not in the aircraft now, but those are future upgrades that will take advantage of the capability that's inherent in this hardware. In terms of the sorts of capabilities that it delivers, though, I'll talk you through a typical scenario now and show you what you're looking at. So what we're showing here is this is the side of the canopy. I'm looking out the left side of the aircraft into a operational fight at night, and this is the kind of the wide field of view night vision camera image you get. All of this tactical information is in the visor right now on the current Striker. The night camera is what's new. You'll see there's little gun flashes from a friendly position here. I've had this position waypoint from data link. I'm going to use the little Q to update that waypoint to the friendlies, and then you'll see there are gun flashes from 3 hostile terrorist positions, and I'm going to, as quickly as I press the button 3 times, I'm going to designate those as targets, and as I look into the cockpit, you'll see the laser pod is automatically slewed. They've gone into the weapon system, and with a little refinement, I'm ready to release weapons.
Joo, tässä on, täältä näyttää tuon Typhoonin tämmöinen uusi, erittäin kehittynyt täysin digitaalinen Striker 2 kypäränäyttö, eli siinä on koko näkökentän täyttävä digitaalinen näyttö, ja sillä pystyy laittamaan tai pimeän näön napinpanossa päälle. Tässä nähdään videota, miten kypärä toimii, kuinka pilotti pystyy tunnistamaan ja valitsemaan 3 viholliskohdetta ja määrittelemään toinen, että mikä alue on semmoista, missä on ystävällisiä joukkoja, minne ei sitten taas voi iskeä.
So there's the first target gone in. I've updated friendlies. It's a different symbol for the targets. 3 target positions. As I look into the cockpit, where I was looking with that cursor is now you can see, is now a target position here. So I've just updated, refined the target position. The little blue flag shows me where friendly forces are. The red circle shows me the damage envelope, if you like, for the current weapon. And as I switch from STB to Brimstone, you'll see that circle shrinks.
Ja tässä näkyy tosiaan, kun kypäränäytöllä on valittu maalit, sen jälkeen tulee näytölle suoraan videokuvaa sieltä, tai infrapura-videokuvaa siitä, miltä maalialue näyttää. Ja se näyttää tuollaisen punaisen ympyrän, mikä tarkoittaa sitä aluetta, mille ase luo vaikutuksen, ja kun aseen vaihtaa, niin silloin tuo ympyrä myös pienee.
And then finally you saw that the troops on the ground have a real-time data link. They see what I see with a little iPad, ruggedized iPad type equipment. And very quickly, even against a target that's trying to escape a moving target, I can very effectively target it with Brimstone, and I have the latest generation pod that's able to track moving targets like that very effectively. So really a great capability.
Tämä sama tieto voidaan välittää maassa taistelijoiden joukoille, ja niin kuin näitte, niin Brimstone on semmoinen, millä pystytään vaikuttamaan erittäin kätevästi ja pienillä sivullisvahingoilla vihollisen kohteisiin.
So those sorts of capabilities are in the aircraft now, so they're being used over Iraq every day. The only difference is the helmet just makes life easier in the night CAS environment, and that's going to be operational with Frontline in about the next 12 to 18 months.
Joo, tosiaan näitä aseet ja ominaisuudet on käytössä ja jatkuvasti Irakissa. Se mikä muuttuu on tämä uusi digitaalinen kypärä, mikä tulee käyttöön noin 12-18 kuukauden kuluessa.
New E-scan is also very exciting. So the CAT-E radar introduces a wide range of capabilities. Like I say, it's in flight test right now. I've been testing it for the last couple of years or so. Been developing it for the last 15 years. It's bringing together several different disparate programs.
Ja yksi iso muutos on tässä tämmöinen AESA-tutka, sähköisesti skannattu AESA-tutka Captor E, joka on ainutlaatuinen tutka hävittäjäkoneissa.
And size isn't everything, but size matters when it comes to radars. We've got a big nose, so you've got a lot of power there. The wider your antenna aperture is, the more power you can generate. In particular, the transmitter-receive module technology has been really well refined and allows us to generate even greater power and greater sensitivity. The result of that with a repositioner is that I have a very wide field of view and I have a much greater range.
Ja tässä on tämmöisiä erottavia tekijöitä tosiaan on se, että se on erityisen iso. Typhoonin nokka on iso, sinne mahtuu iso ja tehokas tutka. Ja toinen asia, että tämä tutkan antenni on käännettävissä, eli se voidaan positioida sinne, millä sillä saadaan paras havaintokyky.
Significantly, I'm still going to have close to full power at sort of 60 degrees off the nose, whereas something with a fixed plate antenna, which is what this shows, a fixed plate E-scan, when you're 60 degrees off just the laws of physics, you're getting down to, we call a 3 dB point, or half power. When I've got a repositioner, then I keep that high power across a much greater range.
Ja tosiaan tuossa jos vertaa perinteiseen tutkaan, missä on kiinteä antenni, niin siellä on tämmöinen se keila, millä tutka pystyy näkemään tehokkaasti, niin se on tietyn muotoinen, mutta silloin kun tämä antennia voidaan kääntää, se tehollinen alue on selkeästi laajempi. Ja esimerkiksi tämä just, että puhutaan 3 desibelin alueesta tai siitä, milloin tutka on tehon puolillaan, niin tällä uudella antennilla pääsee aivan erilaiseen peittoon.
And that gives me a lot of capabilities. In particular, it gives me the ability to fight through a contested air-to-air environment where people are trying to jam me or disrupt or degrade my situational awareness. It gives me the opportunity to do electronic attack against both surface and air threats myself. To gather data, a lot of data, and use that. And it, particularly through task-based management, drives my workload down. Because the radar has so many capabilities now, I don't want to select a single mode and just have it do one thing at once. what I do is I pre-plan, or in the air I flexibly change a number of different tasks that I want the appropriately, along with the rest of the sensors, and actually managing the rest of the sensor resource using that in conjunction with the pirate infrared, the DAS, the data links, etc.
Ja tässä on tosiaan erotus se, että tämä uusi tutka, niin tämä ei enää toimi sen perinteisten tutkamoodien kautta, vaan tehtäväpohjaisesti. Eli sille voidaan kertoa, että mitä tehtävää tämä suorittaa. Tutka toimii sen mukaan ja ohjaa myös muita. Ja tässä on mukana myös niin kuin sähköisen sodankäynnin ominaisuuksia ja muun muassa tämmöinen niin kuin jatkuva tiedonkeruu siitä, mitä signaaleja vihollinen lähettää.
We'll continue for a little bit longer. So I want to talk a little bit now about Eurofighter in the Finnish context. So another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll take a coffee break. I guess in terms of the environment, then I already mentioned, our experience both in the Baltic and on exercises such as Western Zephyr gives us high confidence that the aircraft will operate in the sort of temperatures you find here. The RAF doesn't operate off white top, so we don't generally taxi off pack snow because it's not that cold in the UK. But the Austrians have a white top clearance for Eurofighter, and they don't generally have a problem with that. But we want to make sure the Finnish Air Force has confidence in the aircraft's capabilities. So the expectation is that we'll bring aircraft here and demonstrate to the Finnish Air Force the capabilities to operate in those sort of conditions. In terms of dispersed operations, then our operations down in the Falklands and the fact that we deploy a lot makes us highly confident that Eurofighter really is very suitable for dispersed operations. You can put a very small logistical footprint down in terms of maintenance and support equipment, and the aircraft will fly a lot. And that's through our operations in the Falklands, through the limited footprint and limited spares that we take away with us when we deploy.
Joo, ja tosiaan Eurofighter soveltuu Suomeen hyvin sekä talviolosuhteisiin että hajautettuihin tehtäviin. Ensinnäkin kuninkaalliset ilmavoimat eivät varsinaisesti toimi tämmöisiltä lumisilta talvikentiltä, mutta Itävallan, missä on vuoria ja lunta, kuinka paljon Itävaltojen ilmavoimat toimivat. Ja sitten Paul sanoi, että toivottavasti tämä päästään näyttämään myös Suomessa ja Eurofighter saadaan tänne talvitesteihin. Ja toinen asia on se, että Eurofighter toimii hyvin pienellä huoltohenkilökunnalla ja voidaan lähettää harjoituksiin tai operaatioihin kevyellä miehityksellä ja välineistöllä.
I'm not going to go into the detail of this slide, but all I'm trying to show you here is that we have like a 18-month to 2-year heartbeat of phased upgrades, primarily software and mission data upgrades, but as I said, you can update mission data almost on a daily basis. But effectively, we've had the phase 1, the phase 2, the phase 3 enhancements, and every 18 months to 2 years, there's a heartbeat of updates to the aircraft which are maintained common across all of the nations. Certain nations can take certain aspects, but having a common baseline is the core of how we work. So no matter what, if you want to put extra weapons on, nations have the flexibility to do that, but they all offer common baseline software. And a key part of my job is actually aligning those requirements. Engineers will say if you ask 2 pilots a question, you'll get 5 answers. But actually, if you sit us down together for half an hour with enough chocolate and coffee, then we'll come up with a common solution. So that's the kind of the key elements in it, and really, yeah, we're kind of here at the moment in the development of the E-scan and other weapons, but future capability marching on.
Ja tässä on tosiaan Eurofighteria päivittää jatkuvasti, sinne tulee uusia ominaisuuksia. Noin 18 kuukauden välein tämmöinen Paul kutsui sitä sydämen sykkeeksi, sinne tulee tämmöinen päivityspaketti. Tämä on taas kaikille maille. Maat voivat myös toimia uusia omia ominaisuuksia tai tehdä niitä. Paul sanoi, että hänen yksi keskeinen tehtävänsä on istua eri maiden ilmavoimien kanssa ja sovittaa näitä vaatimuksia yhteen. Ja tässä kuulemma yksi menestyksen salaisuuksia on se, että käyttää suklaata ja kahvia myös pöydässä.
And specific enhancements, well, I've said here for the HX proposal, these are things that we expect to change specifically for Finland, but it's not just specifically for Finland, because the problems that Finland faces are largely the problems that we face in terms of defence in the UK. Not exactly the same, but largely we're planning for the same sorts of threats, as are our friends in Germany, Italy and Spain. So actually, core of these proposals are planned for the core nations, they're in our future proposals for the nations, but these are things that we're planning in the context of Finland as well. So yeah, definitely the enhanced radar I think is essential, and I'll explain why that's going to add to Eurofighter's survivability in the Finnish context. upgrades to the Pirate, particularly to enhance its ability even further to track low RCS threats. Survivability, the smart dispenser system I'll talk about in a little bit more, but effectively more flares, more types of flares, activated metal decoy, disposable active radar decoys, and particularly into the destruction of enemy air defences, suppression of enemy air defences, the spear weapon, which I've already mentioned, I'll talk about more in a moment, meteor upgrades, and maritime strike, the joint strike missile is a very effective weapon.
Joo, ja tässä on tosiaan esitelty niitä uudistuksia tai päivityksiä, mitä on tulossa sitten, kun tähän Suomelle tarjottavaan HX Eurofighteriin. Siellä on muun muassa näitä tutkan päivityksiä, tuon infrapuna-järjestelmän päivityksiä, sitten omasuojajärjestelmiin ja elektronisen sodankäynnin järjestelmiin päivityksiä. Ja sitten 2 tämmöistä keskeistä roolia, mihin panostaan, on oikeastaan vihollisen ilmapuolustuksen lamauttaminen, SPEAR SDB-järjestelmillä ja sitten iskut merellä, missä sitten tämän norjalaisten kehittämä JSM-ohjus saattaa olla keskeisessä roolissa.
Right, so my plan is to pause for coffee there, because Janne said if I hadn't finished by 7 o'clock he was going to come and attack me. So pause for coffee. After the break, what we're going to do is going to talk specifically a bit about the spear, and we're also going to talk about how Eurofighter can reshape the battlefield and how it's survivable, and particularly against a high-level integrated enemy air defense system. Okay, thank you.
Kahvi on tarjolla tuossa oven ulkopuolella ja yritän jatkaa 20 minuuttia.
Joo, mä tässä lopetan tämän osion tähän ja mahdollisesti tulla toisella osiolla joko striiminä tai sitten laitan sen myöhemmin sitten erillisenä. Että kiitoksia osanotosta ja sehän tietysti muita striimiä kyllä riikaa kovasti. Varmasti katsotaan. Ei muuta kuin moi.
Effective way to slow the aircraft is to very quickly slow. No, this is